to your Daily 5 for Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. For our communal film, which I guess is what I'm going to call now, our communal film for the week, Lando and I watched a movie from 1988 that many of you may have heard of, probably primarily from its presence as part of the Red Letter Media Best of the Worst series, a film titled Hack-O-Lantern, which is a ridiculous title attached to a movie that I don't really know if intentionally or not is interesting. Now, I'm not going to try to tell you that this is some kind of well-made movie that people just kind of sleep on because of the title. It's not that. It is a rather shoddily assembled film, but it does do something that is unusual, especially for its time. This is another movie that is at the tail end of the 80s when satanic panic was still something a lot of people were aware of and may have actually believed. And yet this film takes the idea of Satanists in a small town and it makes them the lamest Satanists you've ever seen in your life. Contrary to what a lot of other movies did with Satanic Panic, where they would have it where, the Satanists were powerful and they had Satan would show up and they were doing things. They were a real threat. These individuals, I'm not going to say that they're not a threat at all because they are to some degree. But when you actually see, and after a while, when you see them doing their rituals and what they're trying to accomplish, they never actually get anything out of being Satanists that you as the viewer will ever be able to tell. Unless you think that drinking goat blood is some kind of major achievement, the Satanists in this film are never rewarded for their faith in any way. They don't get special powers. They don't appear to be tremendously wealthy or influential. There is almost no supernatural presence of any kind in the film. And when there is, it doesn't feel like it's actually because of the story. It feels more like the people who were behind it felt like they had to set up a potential sequel. Not so much that it was actually an inherent part of the story. And so that, coupled with the fact that centrally the movie is a murder mystery, it's about people who are being killed by somebody wearing a monstrous mask around Halloween where there's Satanists around, it does actually, as Lando will talk about in in Friday's show, Lando actually didn't know who the killer was because he was so distracted by how puny the Satanists were. And again, this is unusual for the time. Many movies of this type, or really movies that are delving into Satanism of any kind, unless they're trying to be kind of serious and dramatic about it, when you're talking about something like this, a slasher film or, a horror film, they usually delve into the idea of the power that the worshipers of Satanism are getting somehow. Whether it is real or imagined, whether they're generating their own mania, whether there is some kind of supernatural element involved, or as it is in the case in many films, Satan himself shows up, or at least, imbues some kind of magical ability. This movie shows people who appear to be genuine believers doing things they think that the Dark Lord wants them to do, and the return on investment is zero. They get nothing. A Willy Wonka ending. You get nothing. Good day. Satan thanks you for your service. Get lost. There is no reward. And that itself overcomes a lot of the movie's problems, because when you start to realize that there is going to be no payoff, it really makes them pretty pathetic. And again, at that point, you then remember, oh, wait a minute, there's somebody killing people. If it's not for Satan, if there's no reward, who is doing this and why are they doing it? And that secondary kind of motive is the actual interesting part of the film. So this is a fascinating movie to watch because you're aware that it's, again, not particularly well made, but some of the things that it's doing are fascinating. Fascinating because they don't play to type. And this is a movie that I think is a perfect candidate to get remade. Somebody to take this material, and we're going to talk about the details of it on Friday, obviously, but to take some of the core elements, about 80% or so of this movie, and you just change and add a couple things, and I think you actually end up with something really compelling without having to change too much about it. So, again, the movie itself, I'm not going to try to sit here and tell you you're not going to laugh at it at times. You absolutely will. I think this is one Lando's going to say you should watch with somebody. Even if you watch it by yourself, though, I think you're going to take something out of it. So, again, 1988's Hack-O-Lantern, also very easily seen kind of anywhere. Not a great movie in terms of how it was made, but there's something about it that makes it worth seeing. Later.